I swear, it was just a handshake. How was I supposed to know they'd take it as a declaration of war? The man's voice echoed in the dimly lit interrogation chamber, equal parts frustration and desperation. Nathan Carter sat at the metal table, hands cuffed, face pale under the harsh spotlight. Opposite him stood Commander Nar, a towering figure clad in the uniform of the Galactic Peacekeeping Alliance, his expression a cocktail of disbelief and fury. A handshake, Nar repeated, his deep, guttural voice making the words sound more absurd than Carter intended. You mean to tell me that your primitive Earth custom is the reason the Zoranthians and Zoranthians are tearing each other apart? Carter's mouth opened and closed, searching for the right combination of words to explain the unexplainable. It wasn't just the handshake, he finally admitted. It was the context. Dinar's four eyes narrowed dangerously. Elaborate. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. The cuffs bit into his wrists as he leaned forward. Look, I'm just a xenobiologist, okay? My job is to study alien species, figure out what makes them tick. I've spent years trying to bridge cultural gaps between humans and other species. So when I found myself face to face with Ambassador Zill, leader of the Relton High Council, I thought, hey, this is my chance to make a good impression. And your idea of a good impression was physical contact with one of the most touch-averse species in the known galaxy? Dinar's tone was razor-sharp. I didn't know that then. Nathan snapped. Their briefing materials were lacking, to say the least. All I knew was that Zill was an influential figure, and I wanted to show respect. On Earth, a handshake is universal. It's a sign of goodwill, of trust. He sighed heavily. But to the Reltons, apparently it's not. Dinar pressed, folding his arms. What exactly does a handshake mean to them? Nathan's cheeks flushed. A challenge. A challenge, Dinar repeated slowly. To combat, to conquest, Nathan corrected miserably. When I shook Zill's hand, I was basically declaring that humanity was ready to prove its dominance over the Reltons. The room fell silent for a long moment, save for the faint hum of the spaceship's engines. Dinar's gaze didn't waver, and Nathan squirmed under the weight of his disapproval. It gets worse, Nathan finally admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Worse. Dinar's voice was a dangerous growl. How does it get worse? Nathan ran a hand through his disheveled hair, the cuffs clinking softly. After the handshake fiasco, I tried to smooth things over. I figured, maybe if I apologized, I could fix it. But before I could, the Zoranthian envoy, Ambassador Jarlax, walked in. Dinar's eyes widened. You mean to tell me the Zoranthians were there too? Yeah, Nathan muttered. And wouldn't you know it, the Zoranthians love handshakes. To them, it's a sign of friendship and alliance. So when I greeted Jarlax with the same gesture, he interpreted it as humanity choosing sides. Dinar let out a string of curses in a language Nathan didn't recognize, but could tell wasn't complimentary. So, in the span of mere seconds, you declared war on the Reltons and pledged humanity's allegiance to their mortal enemies? Nathan's shoulders slumped. Pretty much. The commander pinched the bridge of his nose, an oddly human gesture for someone with a face full of ridges and scales. Do you have any idea what you've done? The Reltons and Zoranthians have been on the brink of war for centuries. Tensions were already at an all-time high. All it took was one spark, and you— I didn't mean to. Nathan interrupted, his voice cracking. I'm not some diplomat or soldier. I'm just a guy who studies alien biology. I thought I was helping. Dinar's gaze softened, but only slightly. Intentions don't matter now. What matters is stopping this war before it engulfs the entire galaxy. Nathan's heart sank. How am I supposed to do that? For starters, Dinar said, unlocking Nathan's cuffs with a flick of his wrist, you're going to retrace your steps. We'll return to the Relton homeworld and explain this misunderstanding to Ambassador Zill. And what if they don't believe me? Dinar's smile was grim. Then we'll move on to Plan B, which is, pray they don't kill us on sight. Nathan groaned and buried his face in his hands. This is not how I imagined my first trip into intergalactic diplomacy going. Welcome to the galaxy, human, Dinar said dryly. It's not as forgiving as your little blue planet. The journey to the Relton homeworld was as tense as Nathan imagined it would be. He spent most of the time confined to his quarters, pacing nervously and overthinking every word he might say to Zil. The stakes were astronomical, and Nathan's nerves weren't made any better by the occasional terse updates from Dinar. "We'll arrive in 20 minutes, the commander announced through the comm system one evening. "Be ready." "And Carter?" "Don't touch anyone." Nathan sighed, muttering, Yeah. Hands to myself. "Got it." When the ship finally touched down on Arelta Prime, Nathan's stomach churned. The planet was a stunning mosaic of silvery towers and bioluminescent flora, its alien beauty marred only by the knowledge that its inhabitants might want him dead. Flanked by Gnar and two heavily armed guards, Nathan stepped onto the landing platform, squinting against the bright light of twin suns. A delegation awaited them. At the center stood Ambassador Zil, their tall, spindly form draped in shimmering robes, their 6 eyes fixated on Nathan with an intensity that made his skin crawl. "Human," Zil said, their voice resonating like the chime of distant bells. "You return." Nathan swallowed hard. "Ambassador Zil, I need to explain." Zil tilted their head, an unervingly slow movement. "Explain? Or grovel?" "Both, if necessary," Nathan admitted. "But first, I need you to know that what happened was a mistake. I didn't understand your customs. My actions weren't meant as a challenge." The Relton delegation exchanged murmurs, their voices a symphony of clicks and whistles. Zil raised a hand, silencing them. "Your ignorance may be genuine, human, but ignorance does not undo the insult." Nathan's mind raced. "I'll do whatever it takes to make amends. Humanity doesn't want war with the Reltons. We seek peace. Cooperation." Zil's gaze bore into him, unblinking. "Peace is earned, not begged for." "Then let me earn it," Nathan said, surprising even himself with the conviction in his voice. "Tell me what I need to do." For a long moment, Zil said nothing. Then, they extended a hand, a deliberate and pointed gesture. Nathan's heart skipped a beat as he realized what was being offered, a second chance. Taking a deep breath, he clasped their hand, careful to keep his grip firm but not aggressive. Zil's expression remained inscrutable, but when they finally released him, the tension in the air seemed to ease. "Your sincerity will be tested," Zil said. "Pray you do not fail." Nathan nodded. "I won't." Behind him, Dinar let out a low sigh of relief. "Well, that's one crisis averted. Now let's see if we can survive the Zoranthians." Nathan turned to him, incredulous. "The Zoranthians? What now?" Dinar clapped a heavy hand on his shoulder, smirking. "Did you think earning peace would be easy? Buckle up, Carter. This is just the beginning." Nathan stared at Dinar, his mind still trying to process the whirlwind of events. His heart was still pounding from his brief but tense interaction with Ambassador Zil. But now, just as he thought he had a moment to breathe, Dinar dropped the next bombshell. "The Zoranthians are here," Dinar said, his tone turning serious again. "They've been watching our every move since we landed. We can't afford another mistake." Nathan glanced around, his stomach turning at the thought of facing the Zoranthians, the species he had inadvertently insulted with his earlier handshake. He could almost feel their piercing gaze from afar, the sense of being under intense scrutiny making him break out in a cold sweat. "Great," Nathan muttered, running his hands through his hair again. "And how do we fix this?" "More handshakes." Dinar shot him a look that could freeze a star. "No more handshakes, Carter. This time, we have to convince them that humanity isn't just a wild card in the galaxy." Nathan swallowed. "Okay, then what?" "Follow my lead," Dinar said, his voice grim but determined. "And for the love of the stars, do not touch anyone unless I tell you to." Before Nathan could even respond, the doors to the chamber slid open, and the Zoranthian delegation entered, their presence a chilling, almost palpable force. Ambassador Giarlax led them, towering over everyone in the room, his sharp, angular features accentuated by the bright lights. His silvery skin seemed to shimmer with a subtle glow, like a predator's, and his dark eyes locked onto Nathan with the intensity of a hawk spotting its prey. "Commander Dnar," Giarlax rumbled, his voice low and menacing. "I trust the human has learned his lesson." Nathan's breath hitched, but he kept his posture as confident as he could muster, standing tall beside Dnar. "Ambassador Giarlax," Nathan said, trying to project calm, "I want to apologize for my earlier actions. I was unaware of the significance of the handshake between our species." Giarlax's eyes flickered with a hint of amusement, but it was quickly masked by his stoic expression. "A mistake, yes. A mistake that could have led to much more than mere diplomatic embarrassment. You've done more than just offend the Reltans, human. You've shown your ignorance of galactic customs." "I understand," Nathan replied, his voice steady despite the panic rising within him. "But ignorance can be corrected. I'm not here to make enemies. I'm here to learn, to foster peace, and to show that humanity respects all cultures, even those we don't fully understand." Giarlax paused, as if measuring his words carefully. Then, he slowly stepped forward. "Respect, you say? A rare commodity among your kind. But perhaps you speak the truth. However, there is still the matter of your allegiance." Nathan's heart skipped a beat. "My allegiance?" The Zoranthian ambassador's voice dropped to a near whisper, his tone colder than ice. "You shook Zill's hand as a challenge. You shook mine as an ally. You see, the Zoranthians value loyalty above all else. What will it be, human? Will you stand with us? Or will you prove to be just another Reltan puppet?" Nathan's pulse raced, and for a moment, it felt like his entire future hinged on this very second. He knew there was no way to reverse the past, but perhaps there was still a way to control the narrative. "I don't choose sides based on gestures, Ambassador," Nathan said, his voice firm now, gaining strength. "I choose peace, and I believe the Zoranthians, like the Reltans, have their reasons for their actions. I'm not here to declare war on anyone. I'm here to find common ground where we can all work together." There was a long silence, during which Giarlax studied him with a piercing gaze. Nathan held his breath, praying he had said the right thing. Finally, Giarlax spoke again. "You are bold, human," the Zoranthian ambassador said, his lips curling into a thin, almost imperceptible smile. "But words alone will not heal the wounds you've caused. Actions speak louder than rhetoric." Nathan nodded, knowing full well the gravity of what was being asked of him. "Then what must I do?" Giarlax turned to Dnar, his eyes glinting. "I have a suggestion. Let us see if humanity can prove its worth in ways that matter. There will be a trial of sorts, not of battle, but of intellect and resolve. If the human can pass, we may consider the alliance, and perhaps even offer peace to the Reltans." Dnar stiffened, sensing the weight of the Zoranthians' challenge. Nathan glanced at Dnar, who gave a small nod, though his eyes betrayed concern. "Is this what you want, Carter?" Dnar asked, his voice low. "A test of diplomacy, of willpower? If you fail, it could mean disaster for us all." Nathan hesitated for a moment, then squared his shoulders. "I have no other choice, do I?" "No," Dnar replied bluntly. "But if you pass, you may have a chance to repair what you've broken." Giarlax extended a long, sharp finger toward Nathan. "Then we shall begin at once, human. The trial will not be easy. But if you succeed, you may earn both the respect of the Zoranthians and the forgiveness of the Reltans." Nathan took a deep breath. His whole life had been spent studying alien species, but this was no academic exercise. This was a test of survival, of everything he had ever believed about peace and cooperation. As he followed Giarlax to the trial chamber, he could only hope he was ready for what lay ahead. The galaxy wasn't forgiving, but Nathan Carter was determined to prove that humanity could be.